Hello there, Adam Bazalgette here, founder of Scratch Golf Academy. Today's subject, indoor drills to fix a slice with your driver in just 5 minutes. I really believe you can make some headway. I think I've got some ideas that are going to help you there. We'll have a little look at the order I think you should fix things in, of course some drills to do it, how to apply certain systems of thinking when you're trying to fix a golf problem that you can actually apply to other problems or other swing problems, and at the end I'll show you a real pitfall and what I see people usually do wrong when they're trying to fix that slice. Well, if you're new to the channel, very briefly, perhaps you've watched the videos before but have never subscribed. I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button. Want to bring you more and more free content. Also hit the little bell there, then you'll be notified every time a new video is coming your way. Thanks again. Okay, we know that assuming reasonably solid contact, and that's an assumption for sure, but assuming that the club face has to be open in relationship to the swing direction for the ball to slice. And we know not only will it make it slice, but the ball will tend to start more where the club face is aimed, much more so than where the swing's going. So you get a real double dose of losing that ball out to the right. So that's the place to start. We're going to look at that indoors. Then we'll get into some of the other factors, things that affect path. And as I said, we'll get into a pitfall, the thing I see people really do wrong when they try to fix that club face. So let's look at the club face here. Remember, a closed club face, hold driver up in front of you. I would encourage you to do that. That's when the face is closed. Get yourself acquainted with what that feels like with your hands, especially this lead hand and lead forearm. So many people have this wild thrust of the club like this. Frequently, if you picture the target line as straight through the club, that whips the club left frequently or across the target line. And most of the time when people do that, they cup the wrist. They don't turn the wrist to close the club face. So make sure you're not making that mistake. Get the club in front of you. Get acquainted with the feeling of closing the club face. How important is the grip? The ball doesn't respond to your grip. Ben Hogan had the weakest grip you've probably ever seen for a great player. He didn't have any problem squaring the face, but he was very adept at turning his wrist this way. I would not recommend that for 99% of the golf population. So yes, the grip helps, although the ball doesn't know your grip. So you want a grip where your lead arm there is more over here. That helps you turn the club this way more as you swing it. Now, quick word on that. I would not recommend just wrenching your arm over. Usually if the grip's low enough, if it's down in the fingers enough, the hand will naturally wrap over and you'll get a bit more of a cupped look there. Either way, play around with your grip till you like it. Get the feel for that club face. Do a few swings up here till you arrive at impact with the club face like that. Get a feel for it. So we've had a look at grip and face there. Again, I'll get to the pitfall I see people fall into when they work on the face at the end. But now let's look at another thing. And this is a system of thought I would apply. You have to have a little golf knowledge, but I would apply it to whatever you're trying to fix or work on. So here's the thinking. Think of the various components that would generally produce more of a hook. Again, specifically, we've looked at face briefly, specifically swing path, and just add some of those in, like things off a shopping list. If you're lacking some of that, you know, if a soup is lacking a salty taste, put some salt in. So here's several on my list. Number one, again, swing path. Get your stance where your hips are a little bumped forward and your spine is a little bit more that way. That will tend to give you almost a slightly closed feeling in your upper body. Really, really helps your swing path. I see so many slicers, upper body's too here, shoulders are open, very tough sledding from there. Next thing, remember this. Your body pivot largely influences your arms and therefore your club to go back behind you. As you pivot, that's an inside influencer. The more you swing your arms, the more they rise in their sockets. That's more of a vertical influencer. So you want to influence your backswing with as much pivot as you can reasonably make and minimize the arm swing. So here's a look at what that might be like, that sort of a deal. So what's going to help you pivot? Well, certainly the setup we've talked about. I would make sure that right foot, both feet really, I would make sure that foot is flared some. That allows for more inward mobility of the hips where it's able to move more freely and facilitates more pivot, and if need be, maybe a slightly closed stance as well. So those are some other factors there. Build into your stance. They're going to help your swing path. Okay, let's look at the pitfall I see people fall into when they try to fix the club face. So at the beginning of the video I mentioned that the club face has catastrophic consequences if it's open for the golfer, because it not only curves the ball, but it starts the ball more over there. And it doesn't take a whole lot of a mistake with the club face to really start to see that showing up. So what happens to most golfers? They don't grip it very well. They haven't learned the feeling of how to snap the club face. So their instincts tell them, hey, we've got to get the ball to the left. We've got to close the club face up. But what they actually turn is they turn their trunk too much trying to close the club face, basically just making themselves swing more to the left. So think of it this way. If I'm in a car and I suddenly have to jerk the wheel to the left, close the face, I want to jerk the steering wheel. What most people effectively are doing, they just lean their whole body like that. Don't do that. Do this. So bear in mind, I'm not saying the body doesn't lead a good downswing or doesn't move dynamically, but if you picture the towel snap, I've used this on my videos, if this represents the body and this the club, it's a short, sharp movement. It isn't a huge drag of the body that accomplishes what you want. Think of an alignment rod if you were to whip a bag. Like that. You've got to transfer energy here. So sure, a little dynamic bump of the hips, a little movement of the body is great, but you've got to start to distinguish closing the face versus just turning your trunk and your body. And if you can do that, you're on the right track. Now, let me give you a sort of a synopsis, the 2 things you really need to work on indoors if you're going to fix this slice and be ready when you get out to the driving range. Hit the thumbs up button, by the way, if you like the video. Would really appreciate that. Here's the 2 things. Number 1, get used to prepping yourself. Get a grip that helps you square the face. Get the components in your setup that at least encourage a little bit better swing path. And number 2, stand there and get good at snapping the face. Get good at tugging the wheel without influencing everything else. And just work on that. See, I can see that face is nicely closed. I'm beginning to feel some whip. Train that in where you can differentiate what you're doing with the club and what you're doing with your chest. When you do get outside to hit some golf balls, you want to hit some little tight snap hooks on some 2/3 swings. Get a feel for that, then back off it, and you will have cured your slice. Hope this helps.